My Wardrobe's an online store focusing on men's and women's fashion. We're positioned within the everyday luxury sector, and that's really focusing on second line or diffusion line brands from mainline collections. We sort of have a target audience of between 27 to 47, but we also have a really sweet spot within the 30-somethings. There were some brands that really took a leap of faith, and because they'd seen sort of the I guess the experience of powder and the way it was designed, and there was a real attention to detail. There was a trust that we would put the same level of effort into the online business, but because of the level of brands that we buy into, there was this massive protection about online, and I think at the time it was very much viewed to a certain extent with a certain amount of negativity, because it attached to that was the whole issues that many of these brands had over counterfeit products being sold on eBay, etc., and discounting. And we are not a discounter. Our USP at My Wardrobe is not price, it's actually convenience. So we'll be the same price as if you were to buy that item in Selfridges or in Harrods or in another boutique somewhere. So it really did take a while we got some initial brands on board, but then in terms of the larger brands such as Mulberry, Anya Hindmarsh or D&G, Dolce & Gabbana ready-to-wear, that's really been a consistent sort of ongoing conversation. But it's never been around price, it's always been around getting them on board and trusting us that actually we'll protect their brand within the online space, because they are very protective about online distribution. And it's been a massive barrier to entry, but actually in some ways it's worked to our advantage, because if it's hard for us and we're one step further than a lot of people, it's going to be even more impossible for anyone else. We really had no idea about returns. And I guess that sounds a little bit naive, but in 2006, online was very young. And when I think about it, it's obvious, because if you're in a boutique and you might take 5 items into the changing room, but only convert 1 or 2 to the checkout, there's no difference. It's just that where we are now with online is that the changing room is the customer's bedroom, or wherever it might be that she's going to try on the item. So returns are a fact of life within online, and I think a lot of people view it as a real negative part of the business, but to be honest, it's factored into all the financial models. And I think one thing that's really important is you don't look at returns in terms of making your return policy impossible or really difficult for the customer, because it might mean that you have a low return rate, but actually you're not going to retain your customer for very long, because you'll just think, well, it's too difficult, it's not convenient enough. And for us, it's all about convenience. So we'll arrange for our delivery partner to go and collect the item from at a time and place that's convenient for the customer. It's fair to say that we probably went through the first 12 months of Google spends where we actually had no idea what the cost of acquisition or cost of a sale sort of actually was, the reality of it. And I think there's a lot of people out there who really don't understand the true cost for each sale or acquisition. So people will just bid, they'll bid to be number 1, number 2, number 3 on the sponsored links. But I don't think a lot of people actually truly understand the cost of what it relates to in terms of the customer front and sales. So I think we sort of did probably waste a bit of money on that front, but at the time it was about driving traffic to the site. If you're a young designer or you're looking to launch a shop online store, the first thing I'd say is investment, because the market is getting really crowded now, and it's about share of voice. And there might be I think people have an assumption that they're going to launch their online store and suddenly everyone's going to find it and they're going to be millionaires overnight or whatever it might be. It's just simply not the case. You know, there are so many stores out there now. Even for us, you know, another reason why we went for this third round of investment with a strategic partner, an institutional investor, was really to accelerate the growth and to be number one within the space, because to be number two, number three really wasn't good enough for us. We're a pure player and that's our area. There's also not been the appreciation of how much cash is required to launch an online store, because you know, there are costs on inventory, there's costs on, you know, other areas such as, you know, your delivery partner, and, you know, various other elements, the platform and the development of the site, etc. And also in terms of attention to detail in photography and styling, and then the team that you need to bring on to support the business in terms of your experts. The thing that we maybe weren't prepared for during the fundraising period was actually how distracting it was. And bearing in mind that we were still going for this 100% growth year on year, and yet going through the process of raising the investment, you know, there were times where, you know, it would be a massive distraction and I wouldn't be in the office for weeks because I'd be going to one various meeting after another. That was a big underestimated part of the process. But equally, how long it takes. During the first round of investment, we started the IM process in January 2007, but actually I think our first presentation was in June, because there was the whole process of verification of the IM and the exec summary, and then there was a whole verification through the accounts that had to be signed off, etc. So in our cash flow, we'd anticipated that the cash would arrive in July 2007, but actually it didn't arrive really until October. So that put massive strain. So I think it's about understanding, being realistic about how long the process is going to take, and making sure that you have the best advice as well, and you know, bringing on that right team to really, you know, because when you're talking about equity and, you know, and your share, you know, that's a massive. You really need an expert to look over that. We've had a few sort of issues along the way. You've got to give your customer more than just one reason to come back and visit the store. So it's not just about being a catalogue of product, because now the customer's really sophisticated in our expectation of, you know, online stores from Net-a-Porter to My Wardrobe to ASOS, etc. So it's about making sure that she comes back to either watch my TV and a feature that we've done on a specific trend, or to read editorial content in terms of designer focus, or to, you know, to look at 4 ways to wear and be inspired, or she's going to a wedding and she needs some inspiration, and so she'll go to the Inspire Me section. And it's down to really creating this environment and a community that she feels that she belongs to, because specifically on women, men are different, but specifically on women, they are very store loyal. So one season she might buy a Mulby bag, next season it might be Anya Hindmarsh, next season it might be D&G, but she will always return to the store in which she feels she belongs and which she feels comfortable in. So it's really about making sure you've got a very clear tone of who you are and who your customer is. So knowing your customer is without doubt the most important thing to do. But yeah, it's creating an environment that she's really going to feel that that's her space. And then you've got to support it with content, being editorial or moving content. We're now at 90, having grown from 2 in 2006. And I'd say the split's pretty 50-50 actually at the moment. And in terms of what we have in Nottingham within the departments, you know, that's where we have the warehouse, the pickers and the packers, the customer service team, web development, accounts, etc. So the areas which will increase with the growth are very much the warehouse and the pickers and packers. The more orders you have, the more people you need to fulfil those orders, and also customer service, because the more orders you have, more likely you're going to have the requirement for a customer service person to assist a customer, obviously. And then equally within London, the bigger the buying budgets, therefore the bigger the buying team that's required. And you know, the more PR people within the team, and the marketing, etc. So yeah, they're pretty much all on track to grow within the next sort of 3 years or so.